And action.
Okay. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's APAC Scientific Forum session. We are on May 2nd. Today we're going to focus on the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper, an introduction by the HDR UK team. This is an open source tool that have been developed by the HDR UK team to help with OMOP conversions. And then we will have Song, who will be sharing a bit on the outdated OHDSI packages and how we can actually re-execute them on behalf of his colleague, Mengyuan Shang. There. Yeah. Okay. So let's begin.
I'll start sharing the recording, Mukesh. Let me know if you can't hear the sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. My name's Dr. Esmond Urwin, and I'll be presenting the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper for you today. So, contents of the presentation, introduction to us here at Nottingham, developmental background and context of the tool, how it came to be, the ㍍CaRROT tool itself, a quick overview of that, and then focus upon the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper. And then going to click over to a web browser to show you some live ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool usage, run through the tool, its capabilities, what it does, and what it's like to interact with and use. And then look at how the outputs of that tool feed into enable the Health Data Research UK cohort discovery tool. And then to finish a brief summary. So here we are, Health Informatics Group at Nottingham. We're led by Dr. Phil Quinnan, Director of Health Informatics. Then we have Dr. Graziella Figueiro, Dr. Tim Beck, and myself, Dr. Esmond Urwin. I'm a digital researcher and data engineer at the university. My background is in informatics, interoperability, and heavyweight ontologies, which led to me co-writing an ISO standard, thus ending up focusing on standardization activities and thoroughly enjoying it. And nowadays I apply this focus and this joie de vivre on health informatics and standardization for data discoverability and reuse. So, Nottingham Biomedical Research Centre, that's who I work for, the university. It's a 5-year programme. It's a partnership primarily between the University of Nottingham and the Nottingham University Hospital, NHS Hospital Trust. Its focus is bringing clinicians, academics, researchers, experts in the field together to develop world-leading research and solutions to healthcare problems. And within the Nottingham BRC, we ourselves, the informatics theme, so it's a cross-cutting theme across all of the 6 main research themes. And we're looking at how we can harness and bring big data to these themes to help across and within. And additionally, we're developing a data platform to enable this for the research centre. So, bit of background to software tools. Dr. Phil Quinnan and his group had for quite a number of years been looking at how to discover and reuse data. So it didn't just appear overnight. It was a number of years of looking at certain aspects. And one of the main catalysts for bringing this all together and it happening was the COVID pandemic a few years ago. So the Coconut project was born right at the start of the pandemic. Its focus was data discoverability and thus enabling further reuse of data and research. How better to make things accessible and reusable and such like. And Additionally, it was focused on a federated approach, i.e., rather than bringing all data assets together, the data stays where it is with the data owner within their infrastructure, and develop a way to query that, to bring it to researchers to understand who has what where, and then ask for access to those data assets, and then go through the applicable governance procedures for those. As I'm sure everyone's aware, the ever-seeming problems with data, multiple different formats, paper, Excel, databases, etc. Different sources of data. Are they structured? Are they defined well? Are they fully explained? These, of course, make things very hard to understand. And once you can understand them, can you even compare them? So a lot of my work and our work is focused on fair data. So how can we make things findable, interoperable, accessible, and thus reusable? So a big focus, all this fantastic work and data generated, how can we reuse it and gain even more benefit from such data? Example being dataset A and dataset B, one's an orange, one's a raspberry. Hard to compare. Utilizing our ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool, you convert to the OMOP CDM standard. So standardized representation of the data. Once standardized, you can then effectively compare apples with apples, and this brings about valid comparisons and analyses thereof, which is one of the main aims of this. So the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool itself, so we've got a domain for it, ㍍CaRROT for omop.ac.uk. The tool itself is focused on taking source data representation through to OMOP CDM representation. It's focused on metadata, not row-level data. It is free to use. That's a key thing here. It is open source, again, the key thing. We are open to development contributions from the community. We would welcome people's involvement, so please feel free to, and do in fact get in touch and say hello. Be great to hear from you. As we can see, here's a front screen of ㍍CaRROT, and so there are some aspects around this. Three aspects. We have the first area, as it were, so an identifiable data, and this is usually within a data partner's own network, so they have some source data. We ask them to extract a view of their data, pseudonymize or anonymize the data. That's a key aspect around this. We don't work on identifiable data. We want it anonymized or pseudonymized by the data owner before we, or the ㍍CaRROT tool is used to map to OMOP. So what do we have? When the data owner takes their data set, creates a view, we ask that a tool, an OHDSI tool called White-Rabbit, is used to statistically profile, analyze the data set. So this breaks the relationships between the data attributes, and effectively it focuses on the metadata. So the column headers, what does the data look at in terms of attributes it's studying? We want the metadata. We don't want the data itself. White-Rabbit tool produces an output, so a spreadsheet output called a scan report, and that is the first stage of this process. We then move to the ㍍CaRROT infrastructure, so where the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper sits. This sits outside of a data owner's, data partner's network. It sits in its own secure environment. It is used for mapping to OMOP. and it ingests metadata only. That is what we're interested in. What are the key structures of a given data set? How can we represent it using standardized vocabularies, and therefore produce an output that can be used for comparison and comprehension further down the line. So what does the ㍍CaRROT tool apply to, the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper itself? How does it apply to the OMOP Common Data Model? Here we have version 5.4. So currently, the ㍍CaRROT tool supports the person table, condition occurrence table, drug exposure, procedure occurrence, measurement, observation, and specimen table. We are looking to expand this. We are improving it and developing as we progress, and looking to make the tool ever more encompassing for OMOP conversion efforts. Okay, so I'm just going to switch to a web browser to show you the tool live. So I'm going to share my web browser, and here we have the ㍍CaRROT tool. So this is the home page. We have a number of tabs at the top that we can click, and there's some summary data around scan reports within the system. This is live here as it's being recorded today. So we can look at all the reports. We can look at active reports. We can look at archived reports. It shows what's been going on in the last 365 days. We can quick précis of scans by data partner, the status of a number of scan reports for a given data partner, so uploading, mapped, fully mapped, etc. And again, a few more statistics around scan reports within the system. So that's the home page of the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool. So then if we look at the top here on the tabs, we have something around data sets, scan reports, documentation, obviously change password, and then log out. So I'm going to quickly look at data sets and then move to scan reports within this. So if I click on data sets, this will show the data sets here. I can page through them to look at what's been going on. We can look at active data sets, archive data sets. Again, this applies to your user profile and what privileges you've been given. As previously mentioned, the tool is free, but you need to have an account created to gain access to that. So access to this tool is controlled, and you will have a number of privileges assigned for your given user profile. So data sets themselves can contain a number of different scan reports. So if I look at one here, so a Panther data set from the University of Nottingham, I can click in here and we see currently it just contains one scan report. So scan report section, if I click on this, we can see a drop down here, so we can look at current scan reports in the system, and there's a section for uploading new scan reports. So if I look at current scan reports in the system, we can see a number of scan reports, data partner, the data set itself, the name of the scan report, who's uploaded it, date, and we have a number of items here. We can see active reports, we can see archive reports. Again, this relates to your user profile and its privileges. We can look at the rules for a given data set, and I'll look at that in a minute. Details, and we can look at the specific status of a given scan report. So we have a number of items here, whether it's complete, whether it failed to upload, whether the upload is in progress, and the level of completeness of mapping from per 25%, so 0, 25, 50, 75, all mapping complete. So, new scan report. So we can upload a scan report from the White Rabbit tool, and we have a number of options here. So we can select a data partner. Obviously, for the purpose of this, we'll choose the University of Nottingham. There we go. I can choose a dataset. I will use the CoConnect dataset here, or we can add a new dataset. Now, something here called visibility. It can be public, or it can be restricted. Public means visible to any registered user within the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool. So that's what public means in this respect. It's not for everyone in the world. It's just for those very few people that have access privileges to this tool. Restricted is obviously restricted, and you can set the viewers. You can set the editors. For example, I could just choose myself and myself. There we go. So it's restricted for me to view and only for me to edit. And we can add scan report name. We can choose the path of where the White Rabbit scan report is for upload to the tool. And we have a data dictionary to be able to upload it to help the mapping of the metadata. And at the very bottom, we have a submit button there. And this is the process for uploading a scan report. And then the system takes a little time to ingest the White Rabbit scan report metadata, and it will give you an update on its progress for the upload into the system. So those are some of the key features. We have the documentation tab here. If I click on this, you can see there's a link to the ㍍CaRROT for omop.ac.uk website, which is here. Something called ㍍CaRROT docs, it's welcome, something around data standards, some information around the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper, some information about the ㍍CaRROT CDM tool, something for pseudonymize, and some information around the BC Platforms BC Link software. So going back to the tool, again, we have change password and logout. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you some mapping. So this is something I previously did. This is the Panther dataset. It's from the University of Nottingham. As with all the datasets, they are all anonymized and or pseudonymized. So there is nothing that breaks any laws here. This is all anonymized and pseudonymized. So what we have here, data partner, us, University of Nottingham, creation date quite a while ago. The Panther dataset, if I click on it, takes us in to the screen, the scan report screen. This is the associated scan report with the Panther dataset. We can see the mapping is complete. We've got something for rules, and I'll come to that shortly. Name version 1. And if I just click on this to take us into the scan report, we can see here a number of tables from the scan report. So this is COVID data recorded at the Nottingham University Hospitals Trust hospitals, very close to the university during the pandemic. And this is how they set their study out and recorded the data. So we have things like questionnaire, baseline samples, something around demonstration for OMOP, some follow-up data, baseline data, theta measurement, phenotype data, etc., and some vaccine post-second dose data. So we've got the name, and then what we need to do per table, as per the UMOP CDM, for a given table, we need to stipulate the identifier. So we edit the table and we state that this data item, data attribute, is the identifier, and then we need a date event per table. And here we have data visit for this given table here. So if I click on this and I go into the questionnaire, we can see a number of the data items for this Panther dataset for this table of questionnaire. We've got the data attributes here. These are COVID symptoms, the now well noted COVID symptoms, things like headache, muscle pain, breathing difficulty, fever, and such like. And you have a number of options here. So you list the data type, you can edit the field, and you can either map at a high level. So for headache, I could enter the OMOP code here and map all of the data within this at a high level. Or what I can do is, which is really good for data types such as real data, things like varchars and integers, it's a little bit more detail to it. So I'll show you for headache. So I click on headache, we go into the table, and we can see here the responses for the data. So we've got an N, we've got a no, we've got a blank with a frequency of 577, and then we've got a Y and a yes. So we can see that when they're collecting the data in the middle of an extremely busy and somewhat frightening pandemic, they've used a number of responses, which is okay. We can see after discussing with the clinicians and looking at their provided data dictionary, we learned that obviously Y is akin to yes, and yes is obviously yes. So what we like to do in the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool, we map for positive things. So we won't map for the no, because obviously that's somebody saying, no, I don't have a headache. But there's no point to map to it. These are null values, again, so we don't map for nulls. And so what we've done here is we've mapped to 378.253, so the OMOP code for headache. So for the Y and the yes responses, these two have been given the OMOP code of 378.252. And in fact, if I just jump to Athena, we can see here the term headache, condition, clinical finding from the SNOMED vocabulary. There is the OMOP term 378.252. It's valid and it's a standard term. So fantastic. That's the code we've put in. So we can see for that, that's how we've mapped for that. Then again, if I take muscle pain, again, we've got N, no, Y, yes. So we map for the positive things. Yes, somebody had some muscle pain. So we map for those two conditions here. As you can see, the valid standard OMOP term for muscle pain has been mapped within the system, and those rules have been created. So what we have here, we have some scan report details, which we've looked at. We could edit the table, but here's one of the key aspects of the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper tool. So if I go to the rules, what we have here, we can start to see the rules as I've mapped the data set for OMOP conversion. We can see in the background here's creating number rules, and this is the page to be able to see said created rules. So if we look at headache here, also we have destination table, so it's condition occurrence, destination field. So we look here for headache, which we just quickly looked at. Condition source concept ID, condition concept ID, condition source of value, source table, so where it's come from, that questionnaire.csv, and the source field being headache. So what we've created, we can see here for the value of Y, yes, you can see that OMOP code has been mapped to. And again, if I just move down here quickly, so again for headache, for the value yes, and it has accepted that rule for that OMOP code that it's been mapped to. I'll just move back to the top so you can paginate through the rule set that's been created for a given data set here. And then we have a few buttons here so we can refresh rules. And here's one of the key things: we can download a JSON file of those mapping rules for conversion of a data set to an OMOP representation. Again, likewise, we could view a map, so it produces a visual output of the map. So from source data over to destination data. So for example, here's the person table, map to gender concept ID, birth date, time, person ID. And then again, we can see how we map to the observation table and such like. So this can be seen visually on screen. Again, we can download that diagram. We have the ability to output to a CSV file. We can show the summary and we can analyze the rules. So if I press the download button, we can see here it's just downloaded a .json mapping file, which can then be used for conversion to finalize the ETL process. So that's a brief overview of the mapping, how we map, the abilities of the tool. So it ingests White Rabbit scan reports. We create a data set. We upload scan reports into a given data set. Here, you can assign privileges for viewers and editors. You can make it visible, public here, to only registered users within the system. Or if you restrict it, you can stipulate with more detail who can see a scan report and who can edit the scan report. So there's the ability to choose who does what here. And again, this is based upon your user profile that you are assigned when you are given the ability to log into said tool. Okay, so this tool produces JSON output to help with the ETL process, and I'm going to quickly show you how this feeds into Health Data Research UK Innovation Gateway. So this is something here in the UK we use for healthcare data discoverability. Here you can query for data sets for given conditions. Here's something I did earlier to help with this presentation. So I queried on Nottingham, and as you can see here, we've got a number of Nottingham associated data sets. And to go a step further, how do these mapping rules, how are they used? So something called the cohort discovery tool here. We click on this, it takes you to this page. So this is facilitated by HDR on BC Platforms RQuest tool. You can create a new cohort with queries within it. So this is one that I did a little bit earlier. So I queried for asthma. I had a new cohort, queried for asthma. We can see here the OMOP code 317009. It's gone away in a federated approach, queried data sets around the UK. What have you got for me? Statistical number is returned. For example, GASP dataset has 2,536 hits for that OMOP code for asthma. And it produces some rather nice graphics around median, mean. For LSPAC, for Twins UK dataset, for the match dataset, you can see the age range, median, such like. So those are how the outputs of the ㍇CaRROT-Mapper are utilised to help fair data and discoverability and reuse. I'm just going to stop sharing and go back to my presentation slides. So in summary, what do we have? So the ㍍CaRROT tool supports a number of tables on the Urwin CDM. These are being ever developed. It's an open source tool, a nice user interface to enable users to quickly and easily map to the OMAP representation. It can reduce governance headaches because it's done with its own secure environment. Easy to use interface, produces JSON outputs, and we welcome collaboration. So please do contact us and say hello. And finally, what be glad to hear, email contacts at the bottom here, QR code for ㍍CaRROT for OMAP, and I'd like to say a big thank you to some partners and projects, namely the CoConnect project, the Beyond, so the by-COVID project, East Midlands Secure Data Environment, Nottingham University Hospitals, NHS Trust, and the Alleviate project. So that is the Advanced Pain Discovery Platform Data Hub. We'd like to thank all of them for their hard work and contributions. That is the end of the presentation. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for your time.
Right, that was the end of the recording. Mukesh, any comments? Maybe good for you to kick off any questions amongst yourselves in which we can consolidate and send over to the HDR UK team.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Shang. Yeah, in fact, I think you can see that this tool has quite similar capabilities as the previous that we saw in the previous calls. But essentially, yeah, you can see there's more of a web tool here that's enabled, say, at a project level, organization level, and you saw how we can enable access controls on who's viewing these mappings and tools. And you can see that there's also dependencies on our open source OHDSI tools here as well. Right. For example, we saw the rabbit scanner, the output that needs to be uploaded into this tool. Any questions immediately from the audience here? We can collate and bring it to the HDR UK team.
Maybe a comment from myself, Mukesh. I think it's a bit, so it's similar to Perseus because it sort of leverages the existing OHDSI tool. So for ㍍CaRROT-Mapper specifically, it's leveraging a white rabbit. But I do think Perseus is more of a ETL assistance tool because it does actually allow you to do the actual, what do you call this, SQL codings within the tool interface. Whereas for the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper, based on what I've seen and based on what Esmond has demonstrated, it seems more of a vocabulary mapping tool, I would say. It's I would need to play around with the tool to be sure, but for example, the JSONs that are produced, how would this apply in the ETL conversion process is also another question, because most of the databases we have will be relational databases, right? And how would JSON directly assist in SQL queries? I don't know, but from my perspective, I do think they're a little bit different what Perseus is doing and is capable of doing versus what ㍍CaRROT-Mapper is doing. Because the JSONs, the only use case I see here is application into their platform where they can do queries on a federated level to see what each of the data sets has, how many frequencies of a specific concept. So that's my interpretation. I might be wrong, but yeah, my comment there. Any other questions or comments from the audience? We are a shy community, right? So if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to Mukesh. Mukesh has put in great effort to get this recording prepared, right? So it would have been great if Esmond could have joined us live, but the time differences don't allow this, right? It'll be too late for the UK people to join us live in these calls. So thanks, Mukesh, for that and arranging this. I trust you will also be open to addressing any questions from the audience and if they come in separately.
Yeah. I think Sandeep, not sure there's any question there.
No, it says
No.
bot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, anyway, yes. I mean, agree. Perseus seems to be more end-to-end, right? Pretty much they had all the Odyssey tools built in, whereas HDR UK is looking more towards the vocabulary angle. And I guess for UK, it's more of the federated approach that they're looking at, because it's a national agenda for them to be heading towards OMOP standards. And every organization, projects are trying to get their data sets in the OMOP format. And that's where you can see HDR UK stepping in to sort of give some tools and platforms for them to be doing this. But yeah, it's still good for us as a community to be aware of all these tools, and we can adapt them accordingly to our needs. Yeah, and yes, please let us know if you've got questions when you're exploring the tool. Okay, if not, we will move forward to the second segment, where Song is talking about the Odyssey packages, right? The older ones in terms of execution.
All right. Does everybody see my screen? Okay. So a little bit background before I go ahead with my presentation. So, for the Odyssey Japan event that happened on April 17th, the reflections or the recap of the event will take place in our upcoming community call. What I'm going to talk about today is more around the effort one of my IQVIA colleagues had put in with regards to preparations for the event. So at the event, if you guys were at previous community calls or scientific forums, there was a hands-on session in which Chan had led. And in preparations for that hands-on, we discussed that not only are we giving the opportunity for the participants to play around with Atlas, we wanted to show the participants actual study results that come out from these Odyssey studies. So IQVIA was tasked with generating some results using IQVIA data, hence the presentation today. So the title of the presentation prepared by Mengyuan is called Re-executing an Outdated Odyssey R package, and specifically sharing or learning experience from re-executing a study package that was from 2021. So more details around the package itself. So Chan had published a paper in JAMA several years ago, along with several people from the Odyssey community. And Chan also had experience doing a tutorial on the specific paper in Korea several years ago. So, oh, did somebody say something? Okay. I'll go ahead. Okay. And what Chan wanted to do for the hands-on in Japan was he wanted to do the exactly same tutorial, except the audience will be the Japanese collaborators instead of the Odyssey Korea collaborators. So for those who are interested, the GitHub repository is available at the URL specified. And the key, as I explained, the key purpose of re-executing this study package was to show to prepare actual results to show to the participants of the hands-on event at the Odyssey Japan event. So for those of you who are familiar, the structure of the GitHub repository is very similar to how Odyssey population level estimation packages are designed. This slide here shows us in the end what folders or what folders that we ended up modifying versus the original folders. So this is just to give you an overview of what changes were made to individual folders. I will get to more detail around what specific changes or troubleshooting that we faced during the re-execution process. Before I move on, Some of the things that I'm going to address might be familiar to certain people in the call today, especially those who already have experience running OHDSI studies. But the idea of the experience sharing today is more around for people who are relatively new and want to know what sort of troubleshooting or debugging might be associated when you do a OHDSI study, especially if a study package is several years old. So moving on, the first, before we talk about the actual issues, the issues are pretty much very linked to the version differences between the current latest versions of the OHDSI R packages versus the R packages that were used back then when Chan had originally executed the study back in 2021. So as you can see, there's a large difference in the version numbers. Some of them are 2 or 3 versions after versus what was used back then. So the first issue that we faced in was around the SQL translation. So because back then when Chan had designed and the study, Snowflake was not supported in the OHDSI packages. But however, IQVIA is using a Snowflake environment. So what we had to do was update the both the SQL render SQL render R package, as well as the database connector R packages, so that they could support the Snowflake environment. However, as we updated these R packages to be able to support IQVIA's environments, this triggered a lot of other version dependencies. For example, as you can see here, court method, the court method study R package, it has had a dependency on the SQL render as well as the database connector. So we had to, essentially what this triggered was a chain reaction of updating all R packages that were dependent on each of the R packages itself. So in the end, what we had to do was we had to make sure that all the R packages were up to date with support for each other in terms of dependencies. Moving on, once we had that in place, the majority of the issues became were arising from the court method package itself. So because the court method package used by Chan was several years back, and the latest version that supports all the necessary IQVIA environments was a relatively up-to-date one, there were a lot of functions changed within the court method package itself, as well as any dependencies associated with the R package. So what we had to do was we had to modify the study package so that it supports the court method package that we wanted to use. We also had to track down what versions of court method in what versions of court method package certain functions were changed, and essentially we had to mix and match these two I would say debugging methods in order to find the right solution for or environment. So any changes that OHDSI releases with regards to R packages are all available on GitHub. So what we had to go through was essentially the URL you see here. We have to go through the news markdown file where it describes what changes were made into each of the versions that were updated throughout history with regards to the court method package. So, for example, in the latest court method package, some of the functions were changed. For example, the create outcome function was added, and some other errors were being generated because of the new functions in place. For example, with regards to create PS and computing covariate balances. So what we did is we tracked down the changes on GitHub. We mixed and matched the changes to what works in our environment and updated the R files, relevant R files to make this work. And essentially, we were able to generate the study results on time. However, because we were very short on time, although we started the re-execution process with plentiful of time, in the end, what happened was because we had to mix and match solutions, find things that were suitable for our environment, essentially we were running out of time. So in the end, we had to come up with solutions on some, sort of a last minute basis. But in the end, it was run successfully and we did have a successful event. Well, we were able to show the study, the hands-on participants' actual results of the study, both in two IQVIA databases, one on the Japan claims as well as on US claims-based database called US Pharmetrics. So in case in case the audience here are faced with a similar situation, here are a few resources for debugging. The golden thumb, I guess, for you to go and look for any resourcing around debugging would be the GitHub repositories, and especially more around the news markdown where the changes are described over the version updates. And also, a good idea is for you to go through the more recent Odyssey studies where a more recent R package is being used, where these R packages can be incorporated into the outdated R packages to make those outdated R packages work using the latest Odyssey R packages. So I did my best to sort of present on behalf of Mengyuan. I admit I might not have done the best job as I'm not a data scientist myself. But to summarize, the major issue we faced is that because Odyssey is an open community, and when things get outdated, there is very limited resources or instructions around how we can troubleshoot these issues that we face when rerunning things. And the key, I guess, the most important solution that can help debug this will be experience. And as you can see from the key takeaways, number 2 here, right? Experience with Odyssey R packages is a major benefit. We as a community could potentially do a better job at sharing this experience and documenting this experience so that this can be better disseminated among the community. And another key takeaway is that our environment settings are associated with various versions of dependencies. And because R is also very well known for version dependencies, the Odyssey R packages cannot it cannot be independent of those. It cannot be free from those dependency issues. So in essence, I think the key message here is for the study owners, that would like for data partners to come on board. It will be important for the study owners to make sure that they are running things using the latest Odyssey R environments, R packages, to make sure that things are up to date and smooth running before you approach your data partners to run something on your behalf. And also for the data partners, it will be great for you guys to be aware that sometimes you may run into issues when participating in network studies with regards to running R packages. These issues might not be directly applicable for SQL queries, because SQL queries would be more dependent around matching the index, the syntax to your specific database. But you will potentially run into any R issues if you were to run things, especially if things are several years old. That's all I had prepared for today. It would have been great if Mengyuan could have been here with us to do the presentation on my behalf, but as China is on public holidays until the rest of the week, I took on the responsibility, I guess, to present on her behalf. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer or address any of those questions. I admit I might not do the best job at addressing them, but is there any questions? Yeah, it looks like a lot of you, this is obvious, right? Some of this, like at least for the people who the names I see from the attendee list, a lot of you guys have had experience running Odyssey R packages before, and this might be sort of, you know, day-to-day basis thing for you guys. However, the intention for the presentation today is to make sure that everybody, even the newcomers here, are aware of what is associated when doing and participating in Odyssey studies. And you will require some, number one, R skill sets, as well as number two, some experience in running Odyssey R packages, as well as knowing what has changed over time around R packages. So I'm gonna shut up now. To open up for any last comments. Otherwise, I can hand over to you, Mukesh, so that you can wrap up the call today. Thank you, Changsu. It is practical, but I might not have done the best job at it. But yeah, the slides will be made available, guys, once the call is complete. So if there's any specific details that you want to look at, I might have flipped through the slides a little bit too quick. It will be available for you to take a look at your own time. Over to you, Mukesh.
All right, thanks. Okay, I think we are coming to the end of our call today. So we've shown two aspects, right? So one was the ㍍CaRROT-Mapper done by HDR UK towards the vocabulary mappings, and also Shang shared on his behalf of his colleague, right, about the IQVIA's approach in resolving some of the issues that we might encounter running all our Odyssey packages. So do let us know, right? If you have any questions on these two areas, we'll collect it and bring it back to the respective teams and address these things for you. Otherwise, I think we're good for today. We will follow up with a community call in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. In the meantime, yeah, have a good week and rest of the week ahead. We'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Guys, before we conclude, please do join us for the community call in 2 weeks' time, because we will be going through a recap of multiple events that took place in the past few weeks. So the Odyssey Japan event, the OMAP introductory tutorial that happened in Thailand, as well as last but not least, a recap around the April Olympians event that took place from a community-wide perspective. And we will have an APAC person present his experience in participating in the event. So yeah, thanks, Mukesh.
Right. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll touch base again in 2 weeks' time.
Bye, everyone.